want to talk about why serenity isn't the goal of centering prayer. There's many byproducts and blessings that will come into your life from establishing a consistent centering prayer practice, and including serenity. Now, as I've looked into my own life, and I talk about this in my book, Centering Prayer, Sitting Quietly in God's Presence Can Change Your Life, I've experienced deeper levels of calmness. I've noticed that I'm less anxious. For me, even my blood pressure has come down a fair amount. I'm more loving, I'm more present. So there's a lot of benefits that can come into our lives from doing a centering prayer practice. But that's not the selling point, friends, and that's not the goal. The goal of centering prayer isn't serenity, it's surrender. And what I mean by that is the whole purpose of centering prayer isn't to get anything out of it. Centering prayer is a vehicle that can lead us into the experience of true contemplative prayer. And contemplative prayer is essentially the experience of God's presence. Now, we can't manipulate God, and doing centering prayer doesn't guarantee that you're going to have some kind of profound experience of being aware of being in God's presence. So when I talk about the goal of centering prayer as being surrender, that's because that's our side. So when we show up and sit in silence, our entire goal, our intention is to surrender the thoughts that come into our mind simply so that we can sit in God's presence with the hope and maybe even the expectation, though again, we can't make God do anything. Our goal is to be fully present with God, and that means that we have to even surrender our thoughts, our feelings, images that come into our mind. And so when you do centering prayer, don't do it simply for benefits that will inevitably filter into your life. Do it so that you can grow deeper and deeper in your relationship with the God who loves you, and that so that you can open yourself up to that experience of being with God. When we talk about contemplation, Robert Mulholland has a book called The Deeper Journey, The Spirituality of Discovering Your True Self. And he defines contemplation this way: it's the practice of stilling ourselves before God, moving ever deeper into the core of our being and simply offering ourselves to God in total, vulnerable love. That's a lot more profound than simply having serenity come into our lives, so that's a good thing too. When you sit in centering prayer, surrender. That's what's going to change your life. If you have any questions about centering prayer, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out at deepdivespirituality@gmail.com. You can also check out my new website, brianrussellphd.com. All of that's in the notes. And if you want to learn more about centering prayer, would you consider checking out my book, Centering Prayer, Sitting Quietly in God's Presence Can Change Your Life. It's from Paraclete Press, and it's available on Amazon or wherever you purchase your books.